ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय श्री कृष्णाय परमात्मने नमः। श्रीमद् भगवद गीता चैप्टर 3 कर्म योगम। Arjuna said, Krishna, if you consider knowledge as superior to action, why then do you urge me to this dreadful action, Kesava? You are, as it were, puzzling my mind by these seemingly conflicting expressions. Therefore, tell me the one definite discipline by which I may obtain the highest good. Sri Bhagavan said, Arjuna, in this world, two courses of sadhana, spiritual discipline, have been enunciated by me in the past. In the case of the Sankhya Yogi, the sadhana proceeds along with the path of knowledge, whereas in the case of the Karma Yogi, it proceeds along the path of action. Man does not attain freedom from action without entering upon action, nor does he reach perfection merely by ceasing to act. Surely, none can ever remain inactive even for a moment, for everyone is helplessly driven to action by nature-born qualities. He who outwardly restraining the organs of sense and action sits mentally dwelling on the objects of senses. That man of deluded intellect is called a hypocrite. On the other hand, he who control the organs of sense and action by the power of his will and remain unattached undertakes the yoga of action through those organs. Arjuna, he excels. Therefore, do you perform your allocated duty, for action is superior to inaction. Desisting from action, you cannot even maintain your body. Man is bound by his own action except when it is performed for the sake of sacrifice. Therefore, Arjuna, do you efficiently perform your duty free from attachment for the sake of sacrifice alone. Having created mankind along with sacrifice at the beginning of creation, the Creator Brahma said to them, you shall prosper by this. May this yield enjoyment you seek. Foster the gods through this sacrifice, and let the gods be gracious to you. Thus, each fostering the other selflessly, you will attain the highest good. Fostered by sacrifice, the gods will surely bestow on you unasked all the desired enjoyments. He who enjoys the gifts bestowed by them without offering anything to them in return is undoubtedly a thief. The virtuous who undertake of what is left over after sacrifice are absolved of all sins. Those sinful ones who cook for the sake of nourishing their bodies alone eat only sin. All beings are evolved from food. Production of food is dependent on rain. Rain causes from sacrifice, and sacrifice is rooted in prescribed action. Know that prescribed action has its origin in the Vedas, and the Vedas proceed from the indestructible. Hence, the all-pervading infinite is always present in sacrifice. Arjuna, he who does not follow the wheel of creation, thus set going in this world, does not perform his duties sinful and sensual, he lives in vail. He, however, who takes delight in the self alone and is gratified with the self and is contented in the self has no duty. In this world, that great soul has nothing to gain by action nor by abstaining from action, nor has he selfish dependence of any kind on any creature. Therefore, go on efficiently doing your duty without attachment. Doing work without attachment, man attains the supreme. It is through action without attachment alone that Janaka and other wise men reached perfection. Having an eye to maintenance of the world order too, you should take to action. For whatever a great man does, that very thing other men also do. Whatever standard he sets up, the generality of men follow the same. Arjuna, there is no duty in all the three worlds for me to perform, nor is there anything worth attaining unattained by me. Yet I continue to work. Should I not engage in action scrupulously at any time, great harm will come to the world. For Arjuna, men follow my way in all matters. If I ever cease to act, these worlds would perish. Nay, I should prove to the cause of confusion and of destruction of these people. Arjuna, as the unwise act with attachment, so should the wise men with a view to maintain the world order act without attachment. A wise man established in the self should not unsettle the mind of the ignorant attached to the action, but should get them to perform all their duties, duly performing his own duties. All actions are being performed by the modes of Prakriti. The fool whose mind is deluded by egoism thinks, I am the doer. He, however, who has true insight into the respective spheres of gunas and their actions, holding that it is the guna that moves along the gunas, does not get attached to them, Arjuna. Those who are completely deluded by the gunas of Prakriti remain attached to those gunas and actions. The man of perfect knowledge should not unsettle the mind of those insufficiently knowing ignorance. Therefore, dedicating all actions to me with your mind fixed on me, the self of all, freed from desire and the feeling of muum and cured of mental agitation, fight. Even those men who, with an uncavailing and devout mind, always follow this teaching of mine are released from the bondage of all actions. They, however, who, finding fault with this teaching of mine, do not follow it, take those fools to be deluded in the matter of all knowledge and lost. All living creatures follow their tendencies. Even the wise men act according to the tendencies of their own nature. Of what use is any external restraint? Attraction and repulsion are rooted in all sense objects. Man should never allow himself to be swayed by them, because they are the two principal enemies standing in the way of his redemption. One's own duty, though devoid of merit, is preferable to the duty of another well performed. Even death in the performance of one's own duty brings blessedness. Another's duty is fraught with fear. Arjuna said, now impelled by what Krishna does this man commit sin even involuntarily as though driven by force? Sri Bhagavan said, it is desire begotten of the element of rajas which appears as wrath. Nay, it is insatiable and grossly wicked. Know this to be the enemy in this case. As fire is covered by smoke, mirror by dust, and embryo by the amnion, so is knowledge covered by desire. And Arjuna, knowledge stands covered by this eternal enemy of the wise known as desire, which is insatiable like fire. The senses, the mind, and the intellect are declared to be its seat. Screening the light of truth through these, the desire deludes the embodied soul. Therefore, Arjuna, you must first control your senses and then kill this evil thing which obstructs jnana and vijnana. The senses are said to be greater than the body, but greater than the senses is the mind. Greater than the mind is the intellect. And what is greater than the intellect is he, the self. Thus, Arjuna, knowing that which is higher than the intellect and subduing the mind by reason, kill this enemy in the form of desire that is hard to overcome. Thus, in the Upanishad sung by the Lord, the science of Brahma, the scripture of yoga, the dialogue between Sri Krishna and Arjuna ends the third chapter entitled Karma Yoga, or the Yoga of Action. The glories of chapter 3 of the Bhagavad Gita from the Padma Purana. Lord Vishnu said, my dear Lakshmi, in the town of Janasthan was a Brahmana of the name Jada, who was born in the dynasty of Kaushik. That Brahmana gave up the religious activities enjoined in the Shastras to be followed by the Brahmana class and took to many irreligious activities. He was very fond of gambling and drinking, hunting and visiting the prostitutes. In this way, he wasted his wealth. He went to the northern countries on a business trip. While there, he gained much wealth and decided to return to Janasthan. After having traveled a long distance, he found himself in a very deserted place. One day, as the sun set and everywhere became engulfed by darkness, he decided to take rest for the night under a tree. While resting, some robbers came and beat him to death and stole his wealth. Because Jada had given up all religious activities mandated for his class and led a sinful life, after his death he attained the form of a ghost. The son of Jada was very religious and learned in the Vedic Shastras. When he saw that his father had not returned to Janasthan after a long time, he decided to go and search for him. For many days he traveled here and there in search of his father. and whatever travelers he would meet, he would inquire from them about his father. One day he met one person who knew his father and informed him of the events that had taken place. When the son of Jada heard the news of his father's death, he decided to go to Kashi to offer Pinda for the release of his father from his hellish condition. On the 9th day of his journey, he happened to take rest under the same tree under which his father had been killed. At that place, in the evening, he performed his daily worship to Lord Krishna, and he also recited the 3rd chapter of Srimad Bhagavat Gita. As he completed his recitation, a loud sound came from the sky. When he looked up, he saw his father there, and in front of his eyes, his father's form changed into one of the most beautiful beings, who had 4 hands and was wearing a yellow dhoti. His body was the color of a dark rain, was wearing a yellow dhoti. His body was the color of a dark rain cloud, and his bodily effulgence was lightening up all the directions. At that time, his father offered his blessing to him. The son inquired from the father as to the meaning of these wonderful happenings. The father said, "My dear son, you recited the 3rd chapter of Srimad Bhagavat Gita and thus freed me from the ghost form which I had received due to my sinful activities. Now you should return to your home, because the purpose for which you were traveling to Kashi had been achieved by your reciting the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita." When the son inquired from the father if there were any further instructions from him, the father said, "My brother also had led a very sinful life, and he is suffering somewhere in the darkest regions of hell. So if you wish to free him and our other ancestors who are suffering here and there in different species in the material universe, then kindly recite the 3rd chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. And by that recitation, they will all attain a form similar to Lord Vishnu's and go to Vaikuntha." When son heard the father's instructions, he replied, "If that is the case, then I will recite the 3rd chapter until all the souls who are trapped in the hellish life are freed." At that time, his father blessed him with the words, "Let it be." Then an aeroplane arrived from the spiritual world of Vaikuntha and took the father to his destination. Thereafter, the son returned to Janasthan and sat in front of the deity of Lord Krishna, and with a desire to free all of the conditioned souls in the hellish condition, started reciting the 3rd chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. While his recitation was continuing, day after day, Lord Vishnu sent his messengers, the Vishnu Dutas, to the kingdom of Yamaraja, who is in charge of administering punishment to the sinful living entities. When the Vishnu Dutas arrived in front of Yamaraja, they informed him that they had a message from Lord Vishnu, who is lying on the bed of Anantasesha in the ocean of milk. They told him that Lord Vishnu was inquiring as to his welfare and also was ordering him to free all of the conditioned souls who were suffering in hell. When Yamaraja heard this instruction from Lord Vishnu, he immediately had all the conditioned souls released from the hell, and then personally went with those Vishnu Dutas to the ocean of milk known as Sweta Dvipa to have the darshan of Lord Vishnu. When he arrived there, he saw Lord Vishnu lying on the bed of Anantasesha. His body had the effulgence of suns and Lakshmi Devi, the goddess of fortune, was massaging his feet. He was surrounded on all sides by rishis, sages, and demigods, headed by Lord Indra, who were all singing the praises of Lord Vishnu. Lord Brahma was also present, reciting the Vedas. Yamaraja fell down and offered his respects before Lord Vishnu and offered the following praise. My dear Vishnu, you are the well-wisher of all the conditioned souls. There is no limit of your glories. From you the Vedas have come. You are the time. And in the course of time you will destroy all things. You are the cause and maintainer of the three worlds, and you are the super soul in everyone's heart who is directing their activities. You are the guru of the whole universe and the goal of all devotees. O lotus-eyed one, please accept my obeisances. And again, your glories are unlimited. In this way, Yamaraja with folded hands offered his respects to Lord Vishnu. Yamaraja continued, as per your instructions, I have released all the conditioned souls from the hell. So kindly instruct me what work you wish me to perform now. Lord Vishnu replied in a voice as deep as thunder and as sweet as nectar, my dear Dharmaraja, you are equal to everyone, and I do not need to instruct you on your duties. Kindly return to your abode with my full blessings and continue your duty. At that time, Lord Vishnu disappeared from the vision of Yamaraja, and Yamaraja returned to his own abode. After that, Brahmana had successfully freed all of his ancestors and the rest of the conditioned souls from hell. The Vishnu Dutas came and took him to the abode of Lord Vishnu, where he was able to engage in the service of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality, Sri Mahavishnu, eternally. This concludes the glory of Srimad Bhagavat Gita, chapter 3, as in Sri Padma Purana. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Narayanaya. Sri Krishnaya Paramatmane Namaha. Shri Krishna 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 Krishna